Please pledge allegiance. DJ, will you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight on the agenda, we have one presentation. We have Josh from Day Automation.
So this is Josh Edinger. We talked about the energy performance contract last week that they've been discussing at the capital project. So we kind of walk them through what exactly that entails and how it'll save us some funding down the road.
Yeah. So I'm Josh Edinger from Day. I don't know if you're familiar with Day Automation or what we do, but we're in about 320 school districts across New York State. We really only do K-12 basically services where we do security, building automation, and energy performance contracts, which I want to talk to you about today. We work in Mount Markham, Hartford, Whitesboro, a couple of close ones by you folks. So I want to talk about what an energy performance contract is and how it could be potentially beneficial for you folks here. And please, if you have any questions, let me know. But an energy performance contract is essentially a way that you can fund capital improvements, and the funding would come from the energy savings and operational savings that you get from doing those measures. So all of the things that we would do would have an energy savings component to them, like your lighting, your building controls, upgrading all of that, and maybe some heating and cooling equipment. And we would coordinate that with your architects and capital projects that you're working on right now to make sure that we don't duplicate efforts. And the whole goal would be to try to take any sort of scope items that would be in the capital project that use energy and move that into the energy performance contract. And that's how you kind of save money on that. And then you can backfill that with anything else that you might want to do in that capital project. So it qualifies for state aid. And there's also energy incentives through the state and through your utility. And the energy savings are all guaranteed. So if we say we're going to save you $50,000 and you don't, it's only 40, we have to write you a check because it can't cost the district any money. It needs to be at least net neutral. Usually it's net positive for the district. And there's also no change orders. So if we say it's going to cost a certain amount, we can't just hit you with change orders like I know some other capital projects can happen. So we looked at your utilities, and that's kind of how this is driven. You take your building uses a certain amount of energy. We reduce that by putting in better lights, better control system, better heating infrastructure, and then those energy savings pay for the building and for the building improvement measures. And we looked, and it would be about a $3.2 million project that we see based on your energy savings and your energy usage. And again, we figured about a 30% energy reduction based on your current bills, and it qualifies for your building aid, which is right around 86%. So the building aid would help also include positive cash flow into your potential project. And then this is kind of a Candyland slide, but it's a flow chart of kind of where you are and where you could be. So right now you're in the orange phase at the top, where we kind of identified there's a potential option for an energy project. And then at this point, if you wanted to move forward to actually do an energy performance contract, you would put out a request for proposals or request for qualifications. Other companies like myself would respond to that. And then you would choose who you want to work with, and then you'd put a letter of intent for that person. Then it would kind of just be very similar to a capital project where you'd work on design with the architects, and we would be a part of that. I know you're doing capital project planning now, so we want to make sure that it's all coordinated well so that we, like I said, take anything that uses energy or we could get energy savings from, and put that in this energy performance contract phase. And then this is kind of the timeline we were thinking. And again, this can all be worked through with your architect and the district to see what makes the most sense. But we would assume that the RFP would come out in May, and then you would select an ESCO you wanted to work with in the June timeframe, and then the audit to actually audit, because once you select the company you want to work with, we'll look through your building and look at pretty much anything that uses energy and how we can optimize that for you. And that would take about 3 months, and then we allocate 3 to 4 months of design for the architects to get it ready for SED. And then who knows how long the state will take to review it. Right now, they say 4 months. I just on the website say 4 weeks, but I don't necessarily trust that right now. So just trying to be conservative. And then we would ideally start the installation in June of 26, so next summer. And that would be how we would start it. And then again, we'd be very similar to a capital project. So that was pretty much it. Which was a lot, yes.
So that sounds great. How much does that cost the district for, say, using your company to go through that? Just, is there any consulting fees or your company's fees that we would pay in order for this to go through?
Yeah, so it kind of is all lumped into the energy project. So out of pocket, it's not supposed to cost you anything. So essentially you take, let's say it was the 3.2 million is usually financed over 15 years. And there is a annual cost for that. That is offset by the energy savings and the associated savings that are go with that. So all of our engineering fees or anything like that is all rolled into it. And we'll show you a cash flow that will show you the ins and outs, and it all has to be net positive so that it doesn't actually end up costing you anything, because it can't, because then you would have to go for a capital project. So it can't actually end up costing folks anything. That doesn't really answer it that well, but it's, yeah.
It does.
Yeah. Any other questions or?
Can you go back 2 slides?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
So, 3.2 million is what you estimate the cost would be to, based on preliminary look at what you know,
Yep.
right? So, okay, and that is financed over 15 years.
Mhm.
Then you said 30% estimated energy savings potential. So what is the timeline to pay back that 3 point? I get it's on that 0.
No, that's a good question.
What's the timeline to pay back that 3.2?
I skipped over that. It's 18-year payback is what the state allows you to do. So it has to have an 18-year simple payback. So what that means is lighting, if you do lighting, the energy savings versus the cost is typically around 5 to 10-year payback, but a boiler might be 40 years. So as long as the net of that is 18 years or less, this qualifies for an energy performance contract. So that's a good question. So it's financed over 15 years, but the cash flow and the energy savings allow for an 18-year simple payback is what it's called. And all of our calculations are monitored and verified by the state. So there's an engineer that does that.
But we're seeing big increases in the national grid with gas prices. So
Yeah.
how do you figure that over an 18-year period?
Yeah, if I
To
could do
make
that,
your net 0?
yeah, if I could do
Not
that,
go the other way.
yeah, I'd be making a lot of money in the energy market. But
So
so
that's your biggest cost.
No,
is
it's
heating
good.
this
And
building.
I hate to say it, but when utilities go up, these projects tend to be more favorable because you're spending more money on utilities. But so what we do is we take what's called a baseline year. So we'll take this year, for example, whatever your cost for a gallon of oil or a kilowatt hour would be. And we establish that as like, this is what we are assuming right now. And what we guarantee is units of energy. Because like I said, I can't predict if it's going to be $5 for a gallon or $3, but I can tell you that we're going to save 10,000 gallons of oil.
You're gonna save a third.
Yes,
or-
yeah.
Okay.
So we guarantee units of energy because that's what we can do. And then we have to associate a value for that. So we'll pick a number that is your usual utility bill. What it's usually right now, I think they gave us about 2-3 years. So we like to find a good number that's not, very high, but one that's kind of representative. But yeah, so we'll show that so that's the other thing, it's guaranteed. So each year we produce a report that says how much we saved and how much we said we would save. And usually we do the calculations so that there's a little buffer so that we don't have to write you a check every year. So usually we say we're going to save this and you end up saving a little bit more. And we'll show a dollar value based on your current rate at that point. But really we just guarantee units of energy.
But has any research been done like into the type lighting? The reason I ask the question is where I work, we have a lot of facilities and we've been given, state monies to update the lighting from fluorescent to some other thing that was not LED.
Yeah. Might have been
And
like
then
Super
with-
T8s or
Yeah, right,
Yep.
T8s.
Yep, yeah,
And
yep.
then literally within 8 years, 6 years, it's like T8s are junk, let's go with
LED
LEDs.
lights. Yep.
So what's the next thing after LED?
I don't know.
So we're stuck. I mean, you're gonna figure in LED to your 3.2.
Yes, exactly.
But then when there's a new, better, best
Mhm.
replacement for LED, that isn't included in the.
No, and usually honestly, what ends up happening, and we've done this with a lot of districts, is we'll do an energy project. Let's say 8-10 years ago, we did one with a district and they were still in their 18-year cash flow that we had guaranteed. We ended up, at that point, we had swapped them out for the super T8s and LEDs came back. So we revisited it and said, okay, we said we would save you this much. Now we can do another potential project. So it's almost, you add another phase to it that you'll line up the cash flows, and
Do
ideally.
you know what we're running now, these T8s? Or are they
This
fluorescent?
looks like, actually, it looks like probably fluorescence, but it could be LEDs, yeah. It depends. Sometimes they do LED retrofits and these are nice color though. So this is like a nice light color.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say these are too like the oranges that you can see from the older fluorescents, but.
Just a step up from candlelit.
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, we do try to, for like classrooms and stuff, because when we do change up to LEDs, a lot of times teachers are like, oh my gosh, this is lab like, so that we try to we'll put like dimming capabilities. We can work with you on that if that's something you want to do too, because those are energy savings too, but stuff that we don't take those, that's just kind of a benefit, because we can't really say, oh, teachers have to dim it 60% or something.
I got a question for you. If our community votes for an electric bus, is this new, how does that work with the electric bus, this whole project? Plugging
We're
that
gonna
thing
save on charging our electric bus.
Yeah, I wish.
in. And we truly have candle.
I mean, if we just plug it in.
I'm just out of curiosity, is that something you're running into?
No,
Is
so
that-
actually, that's some of the schools have asked us, hey, can you include that in here? And since it's using energy, we can't do that. But what we do is right now, we've established a baseline for when you don't have one. But when you do, knowing that you do, that's what we'll work with your district on. Let's say you plug one in and you'll see a spike in your electrical usage. We're going to be analyzing your bills, hopefully for years to come. That's what that we kind of create a partnership where we're kind of almost like your energy advisor. So throughout the 18-year process, we'll start seeing spikes and we'll be like, hey, did you get an electric? If we didn't know that already going into it. And sometimes districts will add a whole wing of classrooms and then it's like, well, the baseline's a little changed with the specs.
I don't know why you're worried about electric bus, you just go park it down at the mall.
And
And you plug it in.
Park it down at the
Energy's,
town.
the energy's free from the state of New York, you just gotta make your bus driver go get his bus at the mall.
Yeah,
Then we want to pay for it.
that's a good way to do it. Listen, that's, I don't envy the situation that's creating.
Or go put it at SUNY Poly, there's all kinds of chargers at SUNY Poly.
Yeah.
There's no little nickel thing for it, so it's free.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll provide them, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If you think of it later and want to email me, call, text, whatever it is, I'm happy to help, because I know this is a lot of information kind of all at once. But yeah, like I said, we see there's a good benefit to it and it'll hopefully get you in a better space. And a lot of the stuff isn't flashy. It's not like a new field or a new something, but hopefully it'll make the comfort level and the controllability of your schools a little bit better and hopefully more comfortable overall for the students and teachers.
Can you just give us a couple of examples of, like, so you mentioned the lights, so changing out more energy efficient lights. What are some of the other like standard things that you guys look at?
Yeah, so like a new boiler, if you have older heating equipment or a new rooftop unit, maybe a new AC unit, we put in a new chiller. We also will do what's called building envelope, where you go up and above the ceiling, there's roof wall penetrations, or there's the door weather stripping. We do all that so that all the energy you are using, it's not going out into, you're not heating outside. So that's a good like low payback one. And then your building controls too. So let's say you have a room or a space that you just run the unit ventilator all the time because you want to keep that space going, whereas we'll control that. So, okay, now maybe have it turn on at 4 a.m. to get the room up to temperature or whatever it has to be. We'll put space temperature sensors in there to optimize that usage. So you're not having running things 24/7. Same thing with like a gym unit. If you have 4 people in the gym, you don't need to run that thing full blast. So you maybe it's not little, but you're modulating the outdoor air damper, so you're not pulling in too much air to condition. And then there's also the aspect of potential like solar or something like that. If you wanted to go down that road, putting the solar field on, we did that for a couple districts where they're on the roof. And yeah, but all that stuff has incentives that hopefully we'll buy it down to through the state and the utilities, but that's, and then also the last one would probably be like transformers. I don't know if you've ever been in the electrical room, but they depending on the size, they hum and they're pretty warm sometimes. So not all schools have them, but that's one that will have good like electrical savings too.
Just out of curiosity, this, if say we were, in favor of doing something with the solar energy, is that also, does that fall in the scope of the, where you're aligning for that like zero net cost for us?
Yeah.
The solar is also part of
And
that?
actually, the state regulates that it has to be almost separate, so the solar needs to pay for itself on its own.
Okay,
And it depends, it changes almost monthly. There's always state and federal funding for solar, and it usually gets it to be about an 18-year payback, which is what we want to see. But the major, I'll say, factor with that is your cost of electricity. Because if you have a really high cost of electricity, the payback will be better.
right,
So we would like to see the high cost of electricity, and we don't actually like to see it because it's costing us more, but it drives more work
Right.
that way. So, but we would analyze that too, and obviously work with your capital project to see if, some districts say, I don't want it on my roof because I'm getting a new roof in 10 years or something like that, or I maybe need to have a field or something like that. There's a lot of options you can do and show it, but we'll put the economics in front of you and say, hey, if this is something you really want to do, and again, it'll be like separate because it can't drive, it has to be kind of on its own.
right.
But yeah, so that's kind of just because the state regulates it.
Wrong question.
Mhm.
How often do these, you mentioned, Hartford, often do these, projects include like a complete overhaul of, insulation? So spray foam.
Pretty much
versus-
everyone.
Really?
Yeah,
So
honestly,
you
that's,
gain a lot of your payback through,
yeah, that's a big,
through insulation.
yeah, it's a great measure.
Re-insulate.
Yeah, it's a great measure.
Very good.
We'll have somebody come in and literally pop their heads up pretty much everywhere and take some thermal pictures, which are especially compelling this time of year, not so much in the spring and fall. But yeah, so that's one that I would say has maybe 5 to 7 year payback, which is awesome because that drives more other non-big buildings.
All right, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you. Moving on to Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Oh, budget. Oh. All right.
So tonight, the board is going to hopefully approve the budget. The numbers are not changing from our last meeting, so we're not going to really talk about them unless there's some questions that people have. I put them up there. But there is one thing that I do want to talk about that is a little bit of change in direction from where we were 2 weeks ago, and that's school buses. So we can go back to the numbers in a minute, but I'd like to address buses first. 2 meetings ago, the board approved putting forth a referendum for 2 diesel buses, last meeting for an electric bus. And when we left that meeting, the intent is that if both propositions pass, we would buy a diesel bus and an electric bus. Since that time, and this is impossible to see.
Yeah.
We have 2 buses, one that had previously already been out of service, a second one that is now out of service and will not be able to pass inspection, 2 diesel buses. So the intent would be, okay, if we, and another part of that story, when we buy an electric bus, we have to take a bus that is currently in service and disable that. And so that's the one highlighted in green at the bottom. So if the 2 propositions were to pass and we bought a diesel bus and an electric bus, we'd be down 3 buses from where we are today, because these 2 are currently out of service that are in red, and we would have to remove one additional one, the one in green. We cannot go down a bus based upon the number of runs that we have, the after-school activities that we have. The way this is set up, under the red, there are 11 routes. Those are regular routes that are highlighted, that are in white. And then below that are 5 routes that are routes that go outside of the district, to BOCES, to other special education sites, to MVCC, wherever they may go. And then there are 5 at the bottom, 2 above the green, 2 below the green, and the green that are our spare buses at this moment in time. And that's running it pretty tight, I guess, is where we're at. So the change in direction, I believe this was discussed, and I think Ron was the only one that was that's here tonight, that was at the Transportation and Facilities meeting last week, would be if both propositions do pass, we would want to buy the 2 diesel buses as well as the 1 electric bus. Reaction, comments from the board on that plan? The plan that we had initially was if they both passed anyway, we were gonna buy a diesel and an electric. Now we're just saying, if they both pass, we're gonna need that other diesel bus as well, so that we can backfill those 2 that are in red, basically, because the electric one is going to replace that one in green that is currently in service, that would have to be taken out of service for us to get the full payments on the electric bus. So, thoughts, comments?
So if we just did the two diesel, then that one in the green would not have to be. Correct, so then we would be asking the community to buy 2 buses instead of 3,
Which is the norm,
which is the norm.
which is the norm,
Every year.
essentially, that's.
Yeah, if only the diesel proposition passes, we're gonna be in the same position. We would keep the green one as a spare. Those 2 that are red obviously are gone, and the 2 new ones would fill in, and we'd have the same count of buses that we currently have. Question?
So if we were to buy 3, 2 diesels, 1 electric, is there a recoup of money from selling the green one to offset any cost anywhere in the budget? What happens to the green one?
The green one has to be disabled, and that's,
You can't sell it to
we can sell it, but it would be scrap. It would be, because we have to basically, I don't know what you do something to the engine block,
You're not
because,
getting anything.
So the top 2 are scrap already.
yeah, they're going out to auctions internationally. They won't pass inspection in New York State, but they'll pass inspection somewhere else possibly. So we'll get $3,000, $4,000, and we won't get a lot for them. And probably a similar amount for the one in green, actually. The big thing with the
Is
one in
that
green.
because it has to be sold in New York State, therefore it cannot be a operable diesel bus, or can we sell it in a state that doesn't care?
Oh, we can sell it wherever we want. Yeah, and we do. When we put them on auctions international, many of them go to the south of the
Well, then
border.
I don't see why we have to put a hole in the block.
No, this one down here?
Yeah.
Because to get the grants that are available for the electric bus, which costs $435,000, they say, you disable this bus, we'll give you $60,000 more.
That's because,
You disable that bus. So they don't want it.
that's because of New York.
No, that's the grant money.
Yeah,
Because they don't want
for
anybody
the
using it,
operation.
correct. Okay, I think, I personally, I'm just gonna kind of bring it back to, like, I think that. I mean, I wasn't on board with electric bus to begin with, that's not any surprise, we don't even know if we have to put in a full infrastructure for charging. We don't know how much we can actually use it, we certainly can't bring kids to Woods Valley for ski club. So I think ultimately my push would be for the 2 diesel buses and vote for those, because we need something tangible that we can use, that we know we can use all the time in all weather to get our children to and from safely, to events, to whatever, and I really think we're taking a gamble on the fact that we're gonna be pushed into electrics right away versus having to stay. So
Well, because you were out. So what's happening is the proposition's going 2 diesel or 1 diesel, 1 electric into the community. Is that correct? I thought we.
that's what we're into right now.
There are 2 propositions, 2 diesel
Correct.
and
One's just
1
electric.
electric, and the community can pass both of them.
Yes.
It's not an or, it's this and this. I know, it's confusing.
It varies.
Then it's up to the board to decide if they're gonna do the electric or not.
Yeah, if it passes. Only the diesel passes, we buy the 2 diesel. We have the same number in our fleet that we currently have, that the green one stays. The diesel and the electric passes, then the board can decide to move forward with buying the electric as well, or decide not to.
Which the choice is, the electric's not costing any money. At this moment.
It
in
isn't
time.
costing us any more than a diesel bus, where.
At this moment in time.
Correct.
And it would replace an older bus. So have to remember that, even though we have to take one out.
If all of,
The bus itself doesn't cost more than a bus. but we have to have the infrastructure to plug it in.
That comes with it.
We can do that.
That
We
was
can
in the
handle
last,
one
that was in the
bus.
last meeting.
Yeah,
We can handle one bus.
Right,
with
with one charger, but then additionally to that, we'd have to buy more.
well, actually, that's a whole nother.
Well, down the road, yeah, that's
That's a whole nother thing.
the next question.
Yeah. If it's not postponed.
Right, we're gonna spend money to maybe be held to something and then maybe,
And we are having some issues with some of our older buses as well.
Yeah,
Right.
we've got.
For our
some-
meeting earlier last week, which there's a lot of money being put into those older ones that we have that it's,
Yeah.
doesn't seem feasible to keep doing that.
We've got some.
Which is why we changed the proposition.
Right.
Right.
We've got some.
Actually,
So it makes total sense if you look at what's going on. with some of them. This is-
So Charlie, if we have to buy 3, how much we're gonna be exceeding tax cap?
No, there'll be no cost in 25, 26 because we'll buy them in July. And the first payment will be in July of 26, 27 school year. And working with Bernie Dotting and our financial advisor, the EPC, we're talking about a capital project. We're in the process of finalizing permanent financing for the project that just finished. So we'll know what the vote is before we finalize that permanent financing, so we'll be able to set up our payments so that the aid and the debt payments kind of offset each other. We're still in a place where we can pull some levers on this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's I agree. The question about the electric bus is a coin flip at best, probably in the community, you know? But I'll say that we do have a number of routes, we've had Cornice Technologies come in, analyze things. An electric bus we will be able to charge it in our garage. We do have a number of routes that it can run on. Certainly it isn't the bus that we're going to take to sports runs, that we're going to take to ski club and things like that, but it can run a route that runs every day in the district. I didn't think about sending it up to Sangertown to get a charge. Probably won't do that.
You guys are on his wheels going.
why not? It takes 8 hours, park it overnight.
You said problem.
People in the community doing it, so.
So that's kind of in the area where there's been a change from where we were 2 weeks ago, honestly. Really, if we knew that the buses were gonna be in the shape, we probably would push for 3 diesel buses instead of 2. And that might be what we set up a year from now, to put 3 diesel buses on, depending on where this electric requirement goes in the next 12 months or whenever. But that's where we are today. So I can go back to the budget if there are questions on it. Because there, again, these numbers you are going to adopt tonight, I hope. They were talked about last meeting. We've kind of gone through them. If there are any questions on any of the expenditures, try to address them. Hold it, the board is good with it. I feel pretty good about this budget right now. Things can change in the blink of an eye, as we are seeing, to the economy, to interest rates, to all kinds of things. But as of this moment, I still think that this budget will be solid for 25, 26.
In New York State's delay on the budget is not, what's that say to you as far as?
Yeah, look, I talked to the people at state aid planning out in Albany, and they say it's like they're ignoring what's going on in Washington, and they're moving forward with likely seeing an increase in foundation aid. And I don't see that the state is delaying the budget based on what's going on in Washington. I think that they're going to move forward with what their plans are at this moment. That's probably the best we can hope for as far as economy. Comments, questions? If not, I'd be happy to sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Callen.
I just want to see his face.
Okay.
Now we will move on to Board of Education Subcommittee reports.
Sure, so the, as they alluded to, we did have our facilities and transportation subcommittee meeting last week. And under the transportation section, as we discussed, we're gonna add, both propositions and hopefully buy 3 buses this year. And I will say that years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, it was the norm that we would buy 3 buses a year. But now 2 buses cost what 3 buses used to cost, so that's why we've trimmed it down. But there are some years that we probably should be buying 3 buses to fix the fleet update. We talked about, as Ron stated, there are a couple older buses that are falling in disrepair. And we want to get, some of our buses are on a 10-year cycle. We would ideally have them on a 7 or 8-year cycle so that when we buy a new bus, we could buy an extended warranty, and then so the whole lifetime that we have the bus is under warranty. Right now, that's not the case. So we've got some buses that, as he stated, we're putting thousands of dollars into because they're out of warranty. So prevent that from happening with a shorter life cycle for our buses. And a couple of the lifts are in disrepair. And so Charlie's been working with us with the architects to potentially purchase a lift as soon as possible in the bus garages. Just make it safe, a little bit safer in there. You got a 30,000-pound bus over your head, and you want to make sure that it's secure. In the facility side of the meeting, we discussed some of the capital project updates. As Josh Ettinger referred to, for the energy performance contract, we're looking at windows, boilers, lighting, air recovery units. Also some of the rooftop units on the elementary school kitchen and the guidance office. And he mentioned too that the AC, we're looking to put AC in the gymnasiums and cafeterias. There was AC in some of them. For example, the high school gymnasium used to have AC, that's gone down, so we looked at that fixed. Looking to update the high school cafeteria floor, elementary and middle school have new floors. Cafeteria is coming, and some of the flooring outside the gym at the entryway in the high school. We discussed the track and field. That's going to be looked at, potentially replacing the track. We also discussed that S word that Mr. Sacco wants to tell us about. Steeplechase, baby. We did talk about it, so. We talked about what we could offer the district if we did. Include a steeplechase on the capital project would allow us to host a couple additional sectional track meets. And finally, we discussed a chemical hygiene officer. In fact, I talked to Ms. Babby about that yesterday. Essentially, every school should have a chemical hygiene officer. We do not have one right now, and have to be part of our director of facilities. So it may be Scott Gillette, our new director of facilities, but we're also going to work with Amanda Hartnett, potentially Amanda Hartnett, chemistry teacher, because those teachers are usually the ones with the most chemicals. So we just need to identify a person to take that role. So for a few of us, we'll be meeting next week to talk about how we will staff that position. And Mr. Sack, anything I missed from that meeting?
So we were talking about the gym, the updating.
Yeah. We're gonna make sure all the banners in the gym are updated. And that involves Scott Gillette as well. Moving on, technology subcommittee meeting that is scheduled for next week, April 14th. And policy committee met just before today's board event meeting, and we will put those policies forth on the next board agenda for approval. That's all for now. So.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Yes, as you can see on your paper, we attended the annual board meeting of OC. Thank you all for those that attended. And reminder for those that are running for board seats, petitions are due April 21st. I also wanted to just review it on Saturday in high school. We hosted the OCMEA Elementary All County Festival. And I don't know if any board members were there, but I think Ryan Decker estimated 1,800 people. I don't know how we counted that, but there were a lot of people. Standing room only. We ran out of chairs. That was a great problem to have. It was warm in there, but they finished the whole festival within an hour. It just moved right along. So everyone was very impressed with the music that our all county students are performing. They thought it was a great facility to host. We were happy to host, and as I said, the amount of people that showed up was just awesome. So it's good attendance, working region. We've discussed, so move along to athletes, we talked about how we can promote college, athletes moving into the college playing field. Mr. Fleck puts out with help from this Cardillos student group, the Sequoia Star newsletter. Every month they feature a student playing at the collegiate level. And so we talked about, at the sports boosters meeting the other night, having all those students that are going to play at the college level wear their college jersey, and we'll take a photo of them and post that as well. This Thursday, representatives from ICANN will be on campus in the high school to talk to students about the impact of social media on mental health. It goes along with some of the ideas from the Anxious Generation. And then May 7th, we are rescheduling the parent forum that was initially scheduled last month. So more information on that parent forum will be forthcoming. Michelle Babby recently secured $3,000 in a grant from the Central New York Library Resource Council to digitize 64 yearbooks and put them on the website, New York Heritage. So many school districts across the state have their yearbooks online. We do not. So thank you, Ms. Babby, for securing that funding, and we look forward to having our yearbooks online. From what year forward?
Whatever's in the vault, that's in the guidance office, I think the earliest one that I found back there was 1936, but I could be wrong. And it wasn't consistent. I wish I could say we had from then forward, but anything that I had access to in the vault or here in the library will be digitized and then made available on New York Heritage. If anybody's familiar with that, you can go there and you can see books and newspapers from across the region. We often have students who are making their see mom and dad or their teachers or whomever, and then sometimes we have alumni or other people who are asking. I don't have here all those are in the vault, but now everybody will be able to see pictures. So it's exciting.
If there's any gap years, you should let us know, because I want to say that there's some Facebook site that's like Sequoia Valley alumni or whatever, and I bet if we put that on there, somebody has their parents' yearbook from whatever year you're looking for, and you might be able to.
For round two.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's still in the future. Do we have? Thank you very much for the suggestion.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm sure like the ones from the 80s, the hair might not fit in the frame, so we might just, scale them late 90s.
We like big parents. Okay.
I have 1990.
I got 95.
I'm writing these numbers down. Thank you. I'll take it.
55,
Stay
54.
cool.
Stay cool.
Guess what?
See the summer.
I did want to pass on a message from Board President Tony Nicotera, who could be here tonight, but he just, he stated that the board had a very strong showing, probably the strongest showing of local boards at the SBI Student Showcase and at the BOCES annual board meeting. So thank you for board members for representing this.
I thought the student showcase was wonderful. I loved seeing the students there representing the different things that, each of the schools offered. I thought that was my first time ever going. I loved it. I thought it was wonderful.
It was also open to parents, yeah, because there were some parents walking.
Yeah, it may have been, but I don't think parents really knew about it unless they were really in school.
It was nice to see our students with us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Interacting with us and seeing what they're doing. Yeah, so.
And then finally, speaking of students, you may have noticed we had a student in the audience tonight. So he went up to teach. So Mr. Decker is taking a bunch of students to see Dear Evan Fratelli. It's that's not Dear Evan Hansen. Like the sailing theater, a bunch of them are going tonight to see that. One more opportunity our music department is offering to students. That is all I have.
Okay. Anybody have any old business they'd like to discuss? Okay, we'll move on to new business. I will read 7.1 through 7.11. Then we'll move on to item 8. Or Marie, did you want to read through all the way through 9? Nope. 7.1, approval of resignation. 7.2, appointment of substitute bus driver. 7.3, appointment of retirement. 7.4, additional athletic appointments for 2024-25. 7.5, disposal of surplus vehicles. 7.6, approval of agreement between Sequoia Valley CSD and Upstate Caring Partners. 7.7, approval of a donation. 7.8, approval of a permanent appointment. 7.9, approval of minutes of the March 25th, 2025 meeting. 7.10, resolution authorizing payment of bills approved by the claims auditor. 7.11, committee on special education recommendations. Need a motion to approve?
And so I just want to make a couple of comments very quickly, sorry. Obviously, Mr. Houck, retiring after 32 years, he's made quite an impression in the math department. I know my kids had Mr. Houck and really teacher, and as I said, he's made quite an impact on the town department, but students over the years. It was Mr. Houck on the long time that you've been here as a teacher. It will be missed. And then 7.8, congratulations to Katie Buckingham for becoming a permanent employee. So she's the office specialist down in the middle school. And so every day what she's brought to the building is she puts the question of the day, like what is the smallest bone in the body, or what is the hottest part of earth called? But students visit the office every morning just to see those questions and hear the answers. So in a short time, you've made an impact. Congrats to Katie.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. Move on to item number 8. Adopt 2025-26 budget. Mike, second, CJ. All in favor? Item number 9, property tax report card. Need a motion to approve? Patty? Ron? All in favor? Item number 10, miscellaneous topics.
It's good, Sarah. I didn't realize that I missed it much in since the meeting, so
Thank
shift
you.
up here.
Thanks, CJ.
Thank you.
Item number 11, public to be heard. Do you have any public?
I get one thing. And Mike might have said this earlier under his breath. I can't remember what he said, but
I already forgot.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that there's a lot of kids and coaches that work really hard in the last 5 or 6 years to win Center State Conference championships and to win Section 3 championship, and they're not represented for those kids coming back on the banners in the gym. And I'd like to make sure that there's an effort made by the school to get those accomplishments on those banners, and it costs money, but it's included in this year's budget. Because it's delinquent. Field hockey, Section 3 title, it's delinquent a bunch of track titles. It's delinquent a bunch of girls soccer titles. It's delinquent of boys only Center State Conference title last year that they've ever gotten in 40 some odd years.
That was for basketball, correct?
For basketball, right? So, and there's a bunch of volleyball titles, Section 3 and Center State Conference. So it's probably missing 12 to 14. Acknowledgements. We need to get that done because for the kids that earned it, they should be able to see it.
That couldn't be echoed louder.
I'll follow up with our athletic director this week.
Don't tell them who said it because they'll text me. Why didn't you just come to me?
Probably watching the meeting right now.
I'm gonna put the bus in your house.
I believe if you call him, he should respond within 24 hours. Any other public to be heard? Item number 12, executive session.
Just personnel.
Okay, we'll exit the meeting to enter executive session for personnel matter.
Motion done by.
Right.